The Fall of the VR Dominion Prologue. The Dominion's Prophecy. The VR Dominion had conquered 1,000 universes, their name a whisper of dread across the stars. Their warships had shattered fleets, their plasma cannons had burned civilizations to ash, and their iron grip had brought entire species to their knees. In their millennia-long reign, they had never known defeat. When their Great War Council convened to discuss the looming destruction of humanity, they anticipated a swift and inevitable victory, a footnote in their eternal saga of conquest. High Council chamber aboard the Oblivion Spire, the Dominion's colossal flagship, surged with an eerie blue glow. Thousands of holographic projections floated in the air, each depicting a different scenario of Earth's impending annihilation. The chamber was silent, save for the deep guttural voice of High Exarch Karus, the Dominion's supreme commander. His metallic carapace gleamed under the luminous glow, his crimson eyes fixed on the war map before him. 6 hours, Karus declared, his voice resonating with the weight of prophecy. 6 hours, and their defenses will crumble. 6 hours, and their fleets will burn. 6 hours, and the last human will kneel before the Dominion. A ripple of satisfaction passed through the council. The VR had vanquished countless realms, reducing entire species to historical footnotes. The humans, a young and defiant race from the Sol system, would be no different. General Zavon, a towering figure with a carapace of polished obsidian, gave a dismissive wave of his claws. We waste time even debating this. The humans are defiant, but defiance means nothing against absolute supremacy. Karus, a reptilian warlord with narrowed eyes, nodded in agreement. He gestured toward the holographic map, where a 10,000-strong fleet of Dominion warships was already en route, stretching across the vastness of space like a plague. "Launch the invasion," he commanded. A low tremor ran through the chamber as the Dominion's armada vanished into hyperspace. The war was inevitable. The outcome was decided. They were wrong. Chapter 1. The Dominion's Might, the VR Dominion, was a colossus of destruction, its empire spanning 1,000 universes. Their warships, known as planetary eradicators, were marvels of engineering, each one a floating fortress capable of obliterating entire civilizations. Their hulls, forged from a rare alloy known as draconite, shimmered with an otherworldly sheen, reflecting the light of dying stars. Plasma cannons lined their decks, capable of unleashing beams that could melt continents. The Dominion's soldiers, cybernetically enhanced and clad in biomechanical armor, were relentless, their minds stripped of fear and doubt through centuries of genetic conditioning. At the heart of the Dominion was the Oblivion Spire, a moon-sized command station that served as both a fortress and a symbol of their power. Its corridors buzzed with activity as warlords, tacticians, and engineers prepared for the invasion of Earth. The spire's central chamber, where the High Council met, was a cathedral of war, its walls adorned with trophies from conquered worlds. The shattered hulls of enemy ships, the skulls of fallen kings, and the crystalline hearts of extinct species. High Exarch Karus was the embodiment of the Dominion's ethos. Born on the volcanic world of Virak, he had risen through the ranks by sheer ruthlessness, his strategic brilliance matched only by his cruelty. Under his leadership, the Dominion had crushed the telepathic collectives of the Voran Expanse, enslaved the insectoid swarms of the Xykra Nebula, and eradicated the crystalline cities of the Lumari. Karus had never known defeat, and he had no intention of starting now. General Zavon, Karus's second-in-command, was a pragmatist. His metallic carapace, etched with the scars of 1,000 battles, told the story of a warrior who valued efficiency over glory. Zavon had little patience for the Council's theatrics, but he shared their confidence in the Dominion's supremacy. "The humans are a primitive species," he growled, his voice a low rumble. "Their technology is centuries behind ours. They will fall like the rest." Karus, the reptilian warlord, was more calculating. His slitted eyes glinted with a predatory cunning as he studied the holographic simulations. "Their defiance intrigues me," he admitted, "but it will not save them. Our fleet will descend upon their system like a storm, and they will be swept away. The Dominion's confidence was not unfounded. Their armada, numbering 10,000 ships, was the largest ever. Assembled for a single campaign, each planetary eradicator was equipped with a Heaven's Wrath cannon, a weapon capable of tearing through the fabric of space itself, creating singularities that consumed entire fleets. The humans, with their meager fleet and outdated technology, stood no chance, or so the Dominion believed. Chapter 2. Humanity's hidden strength beyond the orbit of Jupiter. The vacuum of space swirled as the Dominion fleet emerged from hyperspace. Their ships blotted out the distant stars, their sheer numbers a testament to their might. Aboard the command ship Dread Sovereign, Karis leaned forward, his mandibles twitching as his crimson eyes locked onto the small human fleet before them. Pitiful, Karis hissed. Humanity had sent only a fraction of what any rational species would call an armada. A mere 1,000 ships, their hulls a patchwork of salvaged metal and experimental tech. Karis had expected desperation, last-minute pandemonium, perhaps even a plea for mercy. Instead, the humans had positioned their forces with an almost deliberate indifference, a challenge without the force to back it. He turned to his weapons master. "Fire upon their lead ships," he ordered. "Let them realize their mistake before we erase them from history." Across the Dominion fleet, Heaven's Wrath cannons buzzed with energy, each one locking onto its doomed target. A moment of stillness hung in the void. Then nothing. A flicker in reality. The displays before Karis sparkled with energy readings that made no sense. A voice crackled through the intercom, uncertainty growing in its tone. "Targets have vanished." Karis's head snapped toward the viewport. The human fleet was still there, and yet it wasn't. The targeting systems now revealed millions of human warships, ships that should not have existed, ships that should have been detected long before the battle began. "This is impossible," Karis roared, and then the first 2,000 Dominion ships detonated. The explosions were silent in the vacuum of space, but their impact was cataclysmic. Entire squadrons of planetary eradicators were reduced to molten slag, their crews vaporized before they could react. Karis barely had time to respond before a strange voice crackled through the intercom, cold and composed, carrying the weight of inevitability. "You thought this was war?" A pause. "No, this is extermination." The voice belonged to Ares Reaper Draven, the human commander. Panic rippled through the Dominion ranks. This was not how wars were waged. The VR had never faced phantom fleets, had never been outmaneuvered before their weapons could fire. They were the predators, the inevitable. And yet their ships were dying in silence. Chapter 3. The Nemesis unleashed Ares Reaper. Draven stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, humanity's flagship, his eyes locked onto the battlefield. At 42, Draven was a legend among humans. Tactician whose mind operated on a level that defied comprehension. His face, scarred from years of conflict, was a mask of determination, his gray eyes burning with a quiet intensity. Draven had spent decades preparing for this moment, knowing that the galaxy would one day turn its gaze toward Earth. The Nemesis was a marvel of human ingenuity, a ship that defied the laws of physics as the Dominion understood them. Its hull was coated in a stealth alloy that bent light and radar, rendering it invisible to enemy sensors. Its weapon systems were a fusion of stolen alien technology and human innovation. Railguns that fired rounds at relativistic speeds, tachyon artillery that warped time, and an AI-driven defense network that could predict enemy movements with terrifying accuracy. Draven's second-in-command, Admiral Roar, stepped forward, his voice low. "The Dominion fleet is in disarray. What are your orders?" Draven didn't blink. "No survivors." Roar hesitated, his weathered face betraying a flicker of unease. "Their surviving ships are unprotected. Some are trying to retreat." Draven's gaze flicked toward him, a warning in his eyes. "No survivors," he repeated. Roar gulped, nodding. "Understood." The human fleet struck with surgical precision. Railgun rounds bypassed Dominion energy shields, ripping through command centers before the crews even knew they had been targeted. Tachyon artillery warped time, attacking ships before they had even moved into position. Entire clusters of Dominion warships flared out of existence, eliminated before they could respond. Aboard the Dread Sovereign, Karis roared as another squadron vanished from his tactical display. "We are being hunted," one of his tactical officers screamed, the realization cutting through centuries of arrogance like a blade. Another explosion rocked the command ship, and Karis staggered, his claws digging into the metal railing. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. There was no answer, only another voice, this time from a warlord stationed on the outer perimeter of the battle. "We need to flee," the warlord pleaded, his voice trembling with fear. "Cowards," Karis spat. He had never known terror, never known loss, and yet here he stood, watching his armada fall in minutes. A strange sensation slithered into his stomach, terror. "Keep your ground," he screamed, but his voice was buried beneath the cacophony of warnings. And then the ultimate horror. One of the Heaven's Wrath cannons, a weapon stolen from the Dominion's own arsenal, triggered aboard the Nemesis. A tear in reality itself formed amidst the Dominion's ranks, a singularity that consumed everything in its path. Thousands of warships simply ceased to exist, their matter stretched and devoured, their commanders erased before their final words could be spoken. Chapter 4. The Fall of an Empire. Karis slumped into his seat aboard the Oblivion Spire, watching the battle unfold through a live feed. The once mighty Dominion was being systematically erased. Humanity had not come to fight, they had come to finish them. The intercom crackled, and Draven's voice returned, steady and unwavering. "Hi, Exarch Karis," Draven said, his tone devoid of emotion. "Your empire thought itself eternal, thought it could vanquish reality itself, thought it might confront us." A pause. "Now your people will whisper one name across the stars." Karis forced himself to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. "What name?" A chuckle, not of amusement, but of assurance. "Humanity." The transmission terminated. Karis's body went weightless as the Oblivion Spire's alarms flashed a final warning. Event horizon identified. The last thing he saw was the collapse of space itself, a void that swallowed his empire whole. Aboard the Dread Sovereign, Karis stumbled as the command ship systems began to fail. "If you destroy us, the other empires will rise against you," he shouted into the void, his voice frantic. Draven's lips coiled into something almost like a smile. "They already fear us." A beat. A pause. "Do you know why?" Karis didn't answer. Draven continued, his voice low and steady. "Because when we wage war, we don't conquer." His eyes sparkled in the faint light. "We eliminate." Single command flashed across the Dominion's remaining fleet systems. Priority command. AI override. Commence final protocol. Karis's throat tightened as his tactical officer's face fell limp with terror. They've activated the self-destruct sequences," the officer stammered. "No, that's impossible," Karis whispered. Draven's voice was soft, final. "We don't need your empire." Karis's mouth opened, a frantic plea forming for survival, for mercy, for anything. "Wait!" The first explosion detonated within the Dominion core, followed by another, and another. Across the battlefield, every Dominion ship, every dreadnought, every war cruiser exploded simultaneously. The bridge of the Dread Sovereign ruptured, and Karis's vision clouded as the atmosphere was wrenched away. His body went weightless, spiraling toward the emptiness. His arms flailed, his claws grasping for anything. The last thing he saw was Earth, remote and untouched. The last thing he heard was Draven's voice. "You should have killed us when you had the chance." Chapter 5. The Galaxy's Reckoning. In the aftermath, the galaxy was silent. The VR Dominion was gone, its fragments smoldering against the vast emptiness of the void. The once invincible war machine had been reduced to wreckage, hollow husks of dreadnoughts drifting without purpose, the splintered bones of an empire that had believed itself eternal. The few surviving warlords yelled into their failing comms, desperate for orders that would never come. No reinforcements, no counterattack, no escape. One by one, their voices faded. Humanity had made sure of that. Ares Draven stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, his eyes locked onto the battlefield. The enemy was shattered, their vessels nothing but wreckage, their systems either hijacked or turned against them. Admiral Roar stepped forward, his voice low. "The Dominion is eradicated. What are your orders?" Draven's gaze was unyielding. "Charge the Omega Array." The Nemesis vibrated as the might of a planet killer hummed through its systems. A weapon created not to conquer, not to intimidate, but to erase. The Omega Array was humanity's ultimate weapon, a device capable of unleashing a wave of tachyon, energy that could destabilize entire star systems. It was a weapon of last resort, a testament to humanity's resolve. If they could not live in peace, no one would. The humans had given the Dominion a chance, an unstated offer to leave the Sol system untouched. That offer had been disregarded. Now, there would be no second chances. The Omega Array fired, its energy waves sweeping through the remnants of the Dominion fleet, reducing them to cosmic dust. The galaxy watched in silence as the last vestiges of the VR Dominion were erased from existence. The war had not lasted 6 hours, as the Dominion had predicted. It had barely lasted 6 minutes. Chapter 6. The Whisper of Humanity. In the days that followed, the galaxy reeled from the Dominion's fall. 1,000 species turned their eyes toward Earth, their hearts gripped by a solitary truth. Humanity did not wage war, it waged extinction. The silence of space was broken by the fading echoes of an empire, its legacy reduced to a cautionary tale. On the planet of Crithera, a neutral trade hub, whispers spread through the markets and taverns. The Critherans, a species of bioluminescent traders, spoke in hushed tones of the humans' wrath. They appeared from nowhere, a merchant recounted, his glowing tendrils trembling. Their ships were ghosts, their weapons gods. The Dominion didn't stand a chance. On the desert world of Sarek, the warrior clans held a council of their own. The Sarakians, a proud race of nomadic fighters, had long respected the Dominion's strength. Now they debated whether to ally with humanity or flee to the edges of the galaxy. "The humans are a storm," their chieftain declared, his voice heavy with unease. "We cannot fight a storm. We can only hope it passes us by." Even the ancient Eldari, the manipulators who had orchestrated the Tsar-human war and the counterstrike, chronicles took notice. From their hidden citadel they watched recordings of the Dominion's defeat, their ethereal forms flickering with unease. "We underestimated the humans once," an Eldari elder murmured. "We will not make that mistake again." Back on Earth, humanity celebrated its victory, but the mood was tempered by caution. The Sol system had been spared, but the galaxy was vast, and new threats loomed on the horizon. Draven, standing on the balcony of the Terran Command Center, gazed at the stars. He knew that the Dominion's fall would not go unanswered. Other empires would rise, driven by fear, ambition, or vengeance. Admiral Roar joined him, his expression grim. "The galaxy fears us now," he said, "but fear breeds defiance. They will come for us." Draven nodded, his scarred face unreadable. "Let them come," he replied. "We'll be ready." Chapter 7. The Cost of Victory. The victory over the Dominion came at a cost. Though the battle had been swift, the preparations had taken decades, draining Earth's resources and testing the limits of human endurance. Entire generations had grown up in the shadow of war, their lives shaped by the constant threat of annihilation. Draven, for all his brilliance, was a haunted man. He had lost his family to a Dominion raid on Mars 20 years earlier, a tragedy that had fueled his relentless pursuit of vengeance. Every decision he made, every life he sacrificed, was a step toward ensuring that no human would ever suffer as he had. But the weight of those sacrifices pressed heavily on his shoulders. On Earth, the people mourned the fallen. The Nemesis had lost a quarter of its crew in the battle, their names etched into a memorial wall in the Terran capital. Families gathered to honor the dead, their grief tempered by pride. "They died so we could live," a mother whispered, clutching a photograph of her son, a young engineer who had perished aboard the Nemesis. The Sol system began to rebuild, its colonies fortified with the technology that had brought the Dominion to its knees. The Omega Array was placed under strict lockdown, its power a reminder of humanity's capacity for destruction. Draven knew that such a weapon could not be used lightly. It was a Pandora's box, a force that could reshape the galaxy if unleashed. Chapter 8. A New Dawn. As the galaxy adjusted to the new reality, humanity emerged as a galactic power. Ambassadors from neutral species arrived on Earth, seeking alliances and trade agreements. The Critherans offered their bioluminescent technology, hoping to curry favor with the humans. The Sarakians sent a delegation of warriors, their chieftain bowing before Draven, in a rare gesture of respect. Draven, now the de facto leader of Earth's military, navigated the political landscape with the same precision he had brought to the battlefield. He knew that humanity's survival depended on more than military might. It required diplomacy, innovation, and unity. He established the Terran Alliance, a coalition of human colonies and their new allies, dedicated to maintaining peace in the galaxy. But peace was a fragile thing. In the shadows, whispers of rebellion grew. Some species, fearing humanity's power, began to form their own alliances, determined to challenge the new order. The Eldari, ever the manipulators, watched from afar, their plans unfolding with the patience of immortals. Draven stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, gazing at the stars. The galaxy was vast, its mysteries endless. Humanity had proven its strength, but the future was uncertain. New challenges awaited, new threats, new allies, new horizons. He thought of his family, of the life he had lost. But he also thought of the life he had built, a life of purpose, of courage, of hope. The stars called and humanity answered.